American President Donald Trump is now talking about how the Iran war will end very soon, but he's not actually elaborating on what this exit plan, what this exit strategy, what this off ramp, if it even exists, look like. Has Donald Trump lost the narrative, his nerve, and the battle? I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo story. On the program today, war clouds continue to hover over the skylines of the Gulf countries, Iran, Israel, and at one level, it doesn't look like the war is showing any signs at all of abating. But on the other hand, Trump has given his first indication that this is all going quite terribly wrong for him. The world could see that, but maybe Trump is finally beginning to see that as well. Trump is now talking about how the war will end very soon. In fact, he's describing US operations against Iran to be ahead of schedule and is claiming that they're almost complete. Meanwhile, there is a great amount of interest and concern as to what may happen to the footballers you see on your screen. Iranian girls who refuse to sing their country's national anthem as their protest against the Islamic Republic, the regime in Iran today. 5 of them have been given refuge in Australia. But the larger question for the world is this: as unpopular as the regime may be, as oppressive as it may be, well acknowledged to be, when Tehran wakes up to scenes of the kind that you see on your screen, or in skies filled with soot, when the people can't breathe, when a US missile is now established to have hit a girls' school in Minab in Iran, when LPG shortages begin to hit us here in India, in Bengaluru, in Mumbai, with restaurants in Gurugram on the borders of the national capital also concerned, the world must ask, is this Trump's biggest blunder? Shockingly, Trump at his press conference, the same one where he spoke about how the war may end very soon, also made a joke, only he knows what's funny, about how US military personnel want to sink Iranian ships because, quote unquote, it's more fun. We should remind our audience that the IS Dina was one of the Iranian warships that was sunk by a US nuclear submarine. This after it was headed back home, presumably, after being a guest of India at a fleet review that was reviewed by no less than the President Murmu. FM Jaishankar, Foreign Minister Jaishankar, has now made it clear that 3 ships asked India for refuge on the 28th of February. All 3 were granted. This refuge seeking was approved on the 1st of March, but eventually one ship has ended up docking with Sri Lanka, another with us at Cochin, and a third was, of course, sunk by a US nuclear submarine. Trump thinks that's funny. He's saying that US military personnel say it's more fun that way. Honestly, I do not know a single military man or woman who talks in this fashion. But now to the subject of our conversation this evening. Is Trump losing Iran? Is he trying to backpedal now, talking about how the war might end very soon? And even if he does it from a sense of impending problems at home with oil prices surging, will he actually end the war, or will he continue to give mixed messaging to the world? Let me introduce our guests, 3 very distinguished experts, as we look at different facets of this debate. Naval veteran Captain D.K. Sharma is with us. Welcome, sir. Great to see you after a long time. Also joining us is veteran journalist Chidanand Rajghata. Chidanand is usually based out of Washington, is here home in Bengaluru, where I hope you're not hit by the shortage in LPG supplies, which just shows what a globalized world we live in today and why Trump's ill-thought-through war has consequences for everybody around the world. And also joining us from England today is senior journalist Nicholas Nugent, who's now the editor of Democracy Asia. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. I've got to start with Trump claiming that the war is going to end very soon. We don't know. He seemed to go to sleep in one mood, wake up in another mood. Who knows? But this is his latest.
Called it an excursion. You said it would be over soon. Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
You're talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very
to
soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. In fact, there are 2 levels of leadership, and even actually, as it turns out, more than that. But 2 levels of leadership are gone. Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. So It's obviously been very, very powerful, very effective.
Well, Iran is showing no signs of reciprocating Trump's claims that the war is going to end very soon. Iranian leaders are saying Trump should be careful that he's not one of those who could be eliminated himself. Chidanand, I want to start with you. In fact, you've been tracking Trump for years now. Is he finally nervous and beginning to show it?
Because look, there are two factors in the U.S. which sort of will determine, to what extent Trump takes this war. One is, of course, the polls, and as best as I can see from every poll that I've looked at, this is the least. This war on Iran has the least support among all the wars U.S. has fought over the past century, and that's Vietnam, Afghanistan, Korea, you name it. This is like sub 40%, right? I mean, that is dismal. Can you imagine India goes to fight a war and 60% of Indian population is against the war? I mean, that is something truly, I think that's a reality check Trump is having to face. The second thing, of course, is gas prices. I mean, this is like onion prices in India, actually more serious. Right. And Trump has for the longest time boasted that gas prices are coming down, down, down. Most of it is fiction. I mean, he keeps talking of gas price at $1.99, sub $2. It's never been sub $2 anywhere in the US, but it did drop down to 230, 240. Now we're back up past 350, and now people are talking of 4 if the oil prices go beyond $100 a barrel. And I think that is a very sensitive topic now, and particularly, there are a few months to go for midterm polls and the congressional elections. The entire House of Representatives will be up for election, and if he loses that, he becomes a lame duck president. So those two factors are definitely playing on his mind. Also, the Iranians haven't rolled over, no matter what the world media, what the Western propaganda says. The regime collapse and stuff like that. Iran is not Venezuela. Iran is not even Iraq or Syria. I mean, this is a country of 90 million people. And it's not like, the world is, or Iranians themselves are great fans of the Ayatollah regime. But the fact is the United States has not been able to roll up or effect a regime change. And there's no guarantee that an incoming regime will be any more amenable to ending the war. In fact, it looks like the Iranians have figured out that if they can drag this long enough, it's the Americans, it's President Trump who will be in trouble, right? So if they have the capacity to, take punishment for months, and they have indicated they are willing to fight on, this war could go on, and that would make President Trump very nervous, particularly, as he approaches the midterm poll. So it definitely,
So are you saying that though it's going badly for Trump, you don't necessarily think it will end very soon?
Well, it could end very soon simply because there's pressure on Trump from his own inner circle, from from the industry, from business interests, because the economy, the American House of Cards economy, also depends on peace to keep things churning. Look, one of the big boasts that Trump threw out very often in the past few weeks is how wonderfully the economy is doing. Dow at 50,000 plus, NASDAQ booming, tech companies, AI. And suddenly now everyone's just talking about this war and nothing else. Yeah. So so there's bound to be pressure from big corporations, from industry, from his own tech bros, none of whom are fans of war. And most of all, it's like baseline public. Look, the gas prices is a very, very sensitive issue in the US. And if you're going to approach $4 a gallon, and if they see inflation ticking up, these are all, red flags. And I think the president is aware of that. And increasingly, you're seeing signs that's why he keeps talking about it's going to be over soon, even though his own defense secretary is often contradicted him. So there's a sense that he's looking for an off-ramp. The Iranians aren't giving it to him. They'd like to, probably, push it into a month or two and see how things go. But it depends on how much punishment they can take. And,
Many questions about that, about capacity, about how other countries may get involved, but also one of the most shocking, Trump, I thought Trump has ceased to shock me. But I discovered in the last 24 hours that I can still be shocked by Trump. And what shocked me was the way Trump spoke about the sinking of warships. And he claimed that his military colleagues had told him, when he asked them, why don't you just catch them instead of sinking them? And that his military colleagues told him, it's more fun to sink them. This hits home close to India, because we saw a ship that had come to our country as our guest sunk, the IRIS Dana. I want to play out Trump's statement on this and come right to Captain D.K. Sharma after that. Take a look.
The Navy is gone. It's all lying at the bottom of the ocean. 46 ships. Can you believe it? In fact, I got a little upset with our people. I said, what quality of ship? Excellent, sir. Top of the line. I said, why did we just capture the ship? We could have used it. Why did we sink them? They said, it's more fun to sink them. I said, they like sinking them better. They say it's safer to sink them. I guess it's probably true. But
I mean, that is not funny. And I don't know how a president can talk like this and how the people in the audience can clap. I don't know. It's just awful. Captain D.K. Sharma, a lot more is now known about the Iranian ships in the region. Foreign Minister Jaishankar made a statement in Parliament. He said 3 ships actually wanted to dock. All 3 were given approval on the 1st of February. 1 ended up docking in Sri Lanka. 1 ended up docking with us in Kochi. And these sailors that you see marching on your screen through the streets of Visakhapatnam, they were the ill-fated cadets who were on board the IRIS Dana, many of them today lying at the bottom of the Indian Ocean. When you as a naval officer, sir, hear a comment like that, I'm sure it makes you very uncomfortable, because the rules of war say, and Admiral Arun Prakash told me this, that even when you sink an adversary ship, you are actually obliged to help and save the lives of those that you're taking down. Captain Sharma.
Barkha, good evening to you. And, a statement of this nature coming from the head of the state, it's quite, perplexing, and it beats me that how can somebody, come out with a statement like this. Having said that, there are, there could have been many ways in which this could have been handled. For example, I was talking to many submariners. First of all, it was a case of, an ant against an elephant, putting a SSN against a frigate which does not have anti-submarine warfare capabilities at all. It was a ship which is designed to carry guns and missiles. Having said that, it could have been disabled. The ship, instead of being torpedoed on the stern, where the engine room is there, where the propulsion is there, and that is the biggest compartment, and that is what you saw, within seconds the ship went down. We were discussing, a lot of submariners were saying that had this been the case, okay, you have to deplete their war-making capability, you have to reduce their ships, which can effectively be put to war. This torpedo could have hit the forecastle or the front part of the ship, and the ship would have been disabled. They can't move, and then they would have got adequate time to abandon the ship. And then whether the ship goes down or not. But in this video, if you say it's horrifying, it has hit on the stern, the back side of the ship. Like in a car, if you hit the engine, it is in the front, it is crippled. The same way, the ship's engines are on the after part of the ship. And this is where it does it. Anyway, and here also in the laws of armed conflict, there is something called as necessity, and then proportionality, and then distinction. You could have made a distinction that what are we doing? They are coming back, they were not ready, or probably they knew that the balloon has gone up, and probably they were going inside. That is why probably they were taking the inside routes. If you see where this accident or where this prosecution of IRIS Dana has happened, it is within the EEZ. That means they were within the traffic separation zone, and they were trying to skirt inside the safer waters, because they knew probably, and this is all my reading of it, there are a lot of trade and the economics flow over there. Ships are there in plenty, and they will mask themselves and move in. But then they were targeted because all of them left the place simultaneously on the evening of 25th or 26th, when Milan was called off, or formally called off. So they knew that. And then you also know that a request was made that 3 ships would be seeking refuge here. And probably, whosoever had the problem in the engine, they went closest to Trincomalee. The other one was heading towards probably Cochin, and the third one entered Cochin on the 4th. So, but this was a very sad incident. And coming back to what Chidananda said, I think now he's losing the battle, the narrative, everything. And whatever we are hearing, there is serious issues in the Strait of Hormuz, Gulf of Aden, Persian Gulf, you name it anywhere, all insurance covers have been revoked. Nobody is holding the hand. Energy flow, as he was bringing out, it has gone beyond $100 per barrel. And in the times to come, if situation like this remains. And Barkha, if you recollect, yesterday, day before, we saw there are Indian ships also there, and they were requesting to the DG shipping that please get us out, because the way they are anchored over there, the Gulf, and they have said that no movement is allowed. I mean, say this is, Iran is saying that anybody and everybody could be prosecuted because they are more worried. Bandar Abbas is choked, their naval harbor is choked because of the threat. So now they have put a counter threat. And this is who is suffering? The whole world will suffer. The whole world will suffer, and probably this is the pressure which is going to haunt him. And statements like this with Pete Hegseth and all, it is, in the times to come when it will be debated, they will be mocked upon.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you. Life, very, and we all consider it to be the same. You have done it, but the guys who were, in the middle of the night, who have just found themselves floating, you have not even provided them with any cover.
Yeah, it is against. Yeah, no, it is against every rule of war, and I think this idea that war doesn't have rules is nonsense. And any genuine soldier, such as
no,
yourself,
Barkha, I'll just interject. That means might is right. And tomorrow, what happens in South China Sea when the Armada comes out of the PLA? They can also do the same thing. So that means it is a free for all. Whosoever has got the muscle, they will just go and kill anybody and everybody at sea. How will the economics happen? How will the trade happen at sea? You go anywhere, prosecute anybody, and then vanish. Because today, this Indian Ocean thing, which has happened, it has opened a plethora of questions. We are having so many countries who operate submarines here. Now they come silently, discreetly. They come and do some action and vanish from there. Now, whom will you say? Yes, till yesterday we were saying the PLA Navy will not come and not berth in Colombo because it disturbs the balance. They cannot come here for anti-piracy. But today now everything is open. We never knew that whether it is a PLA Navy or whether it was US submarine till the time they declared it.
Yeah,
it would have been a very, very difficult proposition to find out.
You have put so many thoughts on the table that we have to talk about, but let me just bring in Nicholas on the global picture. I think Captain DK Sharma is saying the whole world will suffer. This happened near India, so we're agitated. This ship, the guests they were guests of India, so we're agitated. But the consequences of this are being felt around the world. And guess what? Who did Trump pick up the phone and speak to? Putin. And actually, many people believe that Putin is going to emerge as the guy with the last laugh in this, Nicholas. Keir Starmer, for once, did try and stand up a little bit to Trump. And, anyone standing up to him, it's not going so well for them. How are you seeing shifting geopolitics around this war?
Well, you've raised a lot of issues there, but let's go back to what you said at the beginning. Is Trump losing? It depends what the objective is, and we don't know what the objective is. If he is losing support, that's more significant. It reminds me of the old saying that we used to say of our boss: he may not always be right, but he's always the boss. So I'm more interested to know if he's losing public support in the United States, because that's the only thing that could force him to change his mind. That could come through increased prices of petrol or gas. It could come just through popular movement, but I'm not seeing that at the moment. So I think it's too early to say that he's losing. Now, is he losing support internationally? Perhaps, notably in the Gulf, because after all, the Gulf Emirates are suffering more than almost anybody except the Iranians themselves from this. And secondly, Asia in general, because I think the increase or the shortages of fuel that we are anticipating is likely to be felt most severely in Asia. So there could be quite a backlash coming from there, but that won't change his mind necessarily. It could, but and indeed, we're beginning to see signs of that. So those are the things I'm interested in. And if I can add a third to the list, what about the Islamic Republic? Because was it the objective? Did Donald Trump back Israel's objective? That seems to be what happened on the 2nd of March, that suddenly American policy is being led by Israeli objectives. And Israel clearly wants to end the Islamic Republic that has been such a threat to it. So these are the questions I want to see the answers to, and of course I'll speculate on. I'm really, really interested in whether we are on the eve of the end of the Islamic Republic in Iran, but I'm not seeing it so far. And if the war should end within days, then there's no suggestion that the structure of governance that's been in operation in Iran since 1979 is going to change. So more questions than answers, as far as I'm concerned.
Nicholas, that's absolutely right. And let me take that to Chidanand. We have Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Ayatollah Khamenei, named or chosen as the successor. There are also some reports that he was injured in US strikes. So there's some sort of opacity around that. Now, if Trump were smarter about his stated objectives, he could have, at the time of the killing of Khamenei, said, we've done what we want to, we won. He could have claimed it as victory. Iran would have disputed it, and life would have possibly moved on. At this point, what is an off-ramp for Trump? On what basis does he say that this war is going to end very soon? It's unclear.
Look, I think by now we should know that Trump creates his own truth, right? It doesn't matter what the rest of the world says. He could just tomorrow say mission accomplished, which is, remember, George Bush, mission accomplished.
But he needs the Iranians. He needs the Iranians to come to the negotiating table. He needs the Iranians to stop sending drones and missiles in the way of the Gulf countries. That is what would qualify as a cessation in hostilities.
Right. And the Iranians don't seem to be in a mood, one. And two, I think the whole project was to somehow get, the former Shah's son into a position of power. I think they forget that the Shah of Iran was extremely unpopular when he was deposed, right? It's another matter that Iran eventually got an Islamic Republic led by Ayatollahs who are not, the greatest, who haven't been the greatest service. I see a lot of social media posts, nostalgic about how during the Shah of Iran's time, women in Tehran, wore miniskirts or, and dressed fashionably. But that nostalgia aside, it was an incredibly corrupt place, right? So I don't think, the regime change ploy has worked, but Trump creates his own fiction, creates his own truths, and he could just as well say, okay, we have done our job, now let's, leave. And, the regime stays in place. They try and do some back channel negotiations. But no, this doesn't end well, no matter which way. I think it was a disastrous move. I think the American public understands that. I mean, I can tell you that.
Do you feel a change in his own base? I mean, the fact that the liberals, the Democrats were against.
Absolutely.
But do you feel a change in his own base? Can we come out of these pictures? Yeah. Tell me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, forget the liberals, forget the Democrats. I think even within Trump's base, there have been people who have been fairly vocal about, no, this is not a smart thing to do, right? And particularly with midterm polls coming up ahead. And even before this, even without the Iran war, Barkha, over the last few months, 2 or 3 months, this Epstein thing has consumed the party. There are any number of Republicans, conservative MAGA base, which is agitated about the Epstein files. There have been lawmakers, who have gone against him. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, there are a whole bunch of people who have been very upset about this. So no, this is, I sense that, this is a base which is fracturing. But again, let me say this again. Trump has this unique ability to create his own truths and fiction and barrel through it. One other thing I wanted to point out, Captain Sharma mentioned that, and you mentioned too, rules of war. I mean, really, when did the United States conform to rules of war? This is a country which dropped a nuclear weapon on a whole city. right? I mean, they bombed the bejesus out of Vietnam, Cambodia. So somehow, our very dharmic approach to war that, oh, at sundown, like in the Mahabharata, sundown, we all lay down our weapons
It's
and,
not dharmic, but it's not a video game, right? It's not a
yeah,
video
but
game.
this is America, and they have a history of doing this, right? They have just bombed the hell out of so many places, and the rules of war, that's meant for other countries, okay? And so I somehow, it is an ugly and cruel joke what Trump cracked about, oh, it's fun to this thing,
Yeah.
but that is the United States, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. In poor form. I should say before I bring in Captain DK Sharma, Trump has told Fox News moments ago that he would be willing to talk to Iran, but it depends on the terms. So he's scrambling here for an exit. I think that much is clear. What is that exit, and is Iran going to oblige, given that Trump bombed them in the middle of negotiations? And that's the point that they're making again and again. And they're going to be extremely concerned that if they do go back to the table, might he not do it again? In the meantime, Pete Hegseth is making a completely contradictory statement, saying today will yet again be our most intense days of strike inside Iran. So, I mean, I don't get it. They're talking in two tongues. Captain DK Sharma, I want you to come on what you said were the global implications. Tomorrow, what if the PLA Navy were to try this? Chinese are being very quiet. I also want to talk about the fact that 37 Indian flagged vessels are stuck in this near the Strait of Hormuz. Our LPG supplies are being hit. And these are Indian flagged vessels. There are some estimates that if you look at Indians alone who may be impacted by these seafarers, you could be looking at 23,000 seafarers on different merchant ships and so on. What is the impact on the supply chain if Strait of Hormuz doesn't operate? And B, sir, on shifting calculations for maritime war?
Barkha, insofar as supply lines are concerned, the effect will be known as we get into this war. Today is only the 10th day.
Mm-hmm.
The supplies, we have enough storage, but you're seeing the red flags coming from Maharashtra, Karnataka. There are issues of gas and how it develops. We have been also, we are reading that all our refineries and all have been told to, increase the production and try and, mitigate whatever.
And guess what? Sorry, on a side note, India, the government has said that we're going to increase our supply from Russia. It's going to go up to 40%. So the whole drama around tariffs, Russian oil, Trump is going to have to ignore all of that because this is an official statement from the government.
No country is going to have a chaos because of him. We will take every measure under the sun to make sure that my population and similarly all the countries will take actions. All this trade and tariff and all can go out of the window if this is the reaction of the superpower. And number two, Barkha, before I go anywhere, Iran can't be rolled over. I just want to bring in comparisons what happened when Pulwama happened, what happened when Pahalgam happened. Whatever you may say when the sentiments, and there are 90 million people, death of 170 small little girls, and then another 150 sailors at sea.
Yeah.
This is not going to go down very easily with them also. Whatever the case may be with the supreme leader over there, Khamenei, I don't think they are going to buckle down. And that is what everybody is saying. That's what Chidanand is also saying, that Iran can't be rolled over. And these might be the red flags that they are trying to now, hasten up and try and bring the things on the table. But I just wanted to, tell you this, that how the sentiment of the country can change the narrative. They might, take a decision, last bullet, last man, up to that. Yeah. If that comes to the thing, then where is America? Then where is the easy resolution? And where is, a short and swift war? It's all gone. It's 10 days. And if you start comparing Israel plus US versus Iran, and today all our calculations are falling apart. Nothing is working. No calculation is working. And now coming back to energy supplies, 3,500 plus ships are stuck, bottled up. Nobody is coming from Persian Gulf out, Strait of Hormuz, or from the Mediterranean coming through the Suez Canal and then following the Gulf of Aden route. Everybody now, whosoever is at sea, is coming, rounding off Africa, and just imagine where will the cost go? And number two, including the high-risk area. Now, Indian Ocean region also has been declared as the high-risk area, which means you will have to redo your insurances. Your agents have to certify that if you are transiting from place A to place B and are transiting through the high-risk area, all this needs to be paid up front, and then only you are insured. So how many companies are going to do it, Barkha? How many people are going to do it? There are not so much margins. Yes, you are talking of bulk carriers and huge BLCCs, but then all this will come down to the last man on, who's consumer. So will the governments allow that? Or will they hold on? Or will they hold on for another 48 hours, 72 hours, 96 hours? Because this is going to, trouble the whole apple cart of pricing, global pricing. So that is what I want to say.
No, I think that's very passionately, but also very factually argued. I just want to play out Pete Hegseth's remark directly contradicting Trump's claims to both Fox and at his press briefing that the war will end very soon. And then I'll come to you, Nicholas. This is what Pete Hegseth had to say earlier today.
Today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Intelligence more refined and better than ever. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, the last 24 hours have seen Iran fire the lowest number of missiles they've been capable of firing yet. Just the bifurcation, just the trend lines that we talked about on our first briefing. You see, this is not 2003. This is not endless nation building under those types of quagmires we saw under Bush or Obama. It's not even close. Our generation of soldier will not let that happen again, and nor will this president, who very clearly ran against those kinds of never-ending, nebulously scoped missions. Those days are dead. Instead, we're winning decisively with brutal efficiency, total air.
So it's completely confusing, Nicholas. I mean, you said it doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon, and it'll all depend on public opinion in America shifting, which Chidanand at least believes is shifting. It's not clear that the Iranians are going to trust the American process this time. Do you see a role for other countries? The fact that Trump spoke to Putin, it strikes me as extremely significant.
Well, a role for other countries? I mean, only the countries involved can end this war, or notably the United States and Israel as well. So I don't really see that third parties like your country, my country, Russia, have a particular role to play, unless it is trying to influence the American president, because he's in control. There's very little doubt about that. The war can only end when he decides it will end. And that clip you've just played makes it reaffirms that they're seeing it as a game. A game. Who's winning the game? Which is as shocking as your earlier comments about the sinking of the ship being fun. We can all be appalled by this, but it's not going to end unless Mr. Trump is persuaded that there are negative effects on America from this war continuing any longer. Is he going to be concerned that India can't get enough fuel, or Myanmar or China? No, that doesn't really matter. So I think that's the only, let's be realistic, that's the only way this war is going to end, not through talks, not through third country influence, but only if the negative effects of the war are being felt in the United States and indeed Israel. The only countries that could have some impact, I would have thought, are the Gulf Emirates, and they're pretty small in global terms, but they are the ones who are suffering almost as much as the third parties, as Iran and Israel, as the first parties, I should say. Iran, Israel, and Lebanon are suffering most, but next come the key American allies in the Gulf. So only they, I think, could have an impact on American policy. But I'm pessimistic. I think it's only going to end when Mr. Trump is persuaded that there is a negative impact on America itself.
Yeah. Very quickly before we close, Chidanand, just a 30-seconder there. Who can convince Trump? And do you think that process has begun?
I think so. There are three constituencies. We addressed the domestic American constituency, the energy prices, oil, gas prices at the gas station. But there are two or three other constituencies. One, I'd say, I think the Europeans, despite all the kind of dismissive words that Trump has spoken, they are an affected party in terms of energy prices, and they're a significant power. They have the ability to also put their finger on this and say, persuade Trump. Then there's India and China, which are two of the biggest economies, very energy dependent, which also are suffering. And then there's the Gulf countries themselves. And in as much as they hate or dislike Iran, Barkha, they are affected. I mean, look at the aviation sector. I mean, all the flights disrupted. I don't know when I'm going back, because I flew in through Abu Dhabi. So they're severely impacted. And it's not just airline and energy. Remember, Gulf countries are also now the recipient of some of the biggest investments in technology, in data centers. And there are trillions of dollars of investment. Everything is up in the air now. If this goes on for any, like a few weeks, a month, 2 months, or much less 6 months, as some of the Iranians are promising, the world is going to fall apart. The whole global economic, growth will plateau or crater. So I mean, there are plenty of parties besides and beyond the United States. I mean, Israel may want to fight till kingdom come, but there can be pressure from other parts of the world. One quick word, that Hexet comment really made me laugh. And all I had to say was, dude, you guys dropped your entire arsenal on Vietnam. Okay, you bombed the bejesus out of you, dropped more bombs on Vietnam than the entire, ammo used in World War II. What happened?
Yeah,
you took out of Saigon. So somehow the idea that you can bomb a country, Vietnam or Afghanistan, into submission, that is laughable.
I mean, the truth is regime change has failed every time in every country, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and now Iran. It is suffice to say, I think we can all agree that so far, whatever the Americans claimed they wanted to do in Iran, they haven't been able to do. A friend called me this morning saying, is this going to become another Vietnam? But I think the difference is Vietnam didn't affect as many parts of the world. This conflict is really sucking in large parts of the world into its quagmire. And therefore, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this war needs to end yesterday. But like, who am I? I just hope that American public opinion can get Trump to see reason. We leave it there. Chidana and Nicholas, Captain D.K. Sharma, always a pleasure to our audience. Thank you. Our continued coverage on the American war on Iran continues. Do keep watching the Mojo Story, and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.